I played Ryza 3 twice and it was a great experience. I feel, after having tried to play the second and the first game over again, that this is the most replayable and streamlined of the games. It doesn't demand that much of you to progress the story, with a lot of optional content to expand your game time. I like the various regions that they added to the game. Instead of having one big map, there are multiple maps to explore. And they even brought back some returning characters like my boy Fee, who I felt made the Ryza 2 experience one of the most defining ones. They also mentioned some characters like Clifford and others from previous games that make returning fans feel like this world is truly connected. The story itself felt conclusive in developing the world and, more importantly, the characters. It even revealed some things about them that we didn't know from previous games, and gives an idea of what these characters are going to do after this journey. The exploration does not require you to explore every part of the world. Rather, only certain parts are necessary to explore and the rest are optional if you want to do that. And these actually play a role in character and world quests. Speaking of world quests, these are quests that have you do a variety of tasks to have some sort of lasting change in each of the regions that is visible, showing your investment was actually worth something, with visible evidence of everything you work towards. And most importantly, I like how when the game starts, you start immediately in a battle and you start at level 20, which is honestly a thing I think other games should do, especially in something like this where the characters we are playing as are experienced fighters. From an immersion standpoint, some stuff you'll be fighting in the beginning wouldn't be that much of a challenge, but I don't think that makes you OP, because for one thing, battles aren't even the main gameplay gimmick. As you know, if you play any Atelier game, it's also because the enemies themselves, depending on your difficulty, can scale to be on your level higher and even being able to kill you within your first hour or two if you aren't playing smart without the proper gear or equipment. The story itself is very simple. There is a new island that has appeared near Kirkin Island. Ryza starts hearing some voices. She ends up making a key. This key is a big gameplay gimmick we'll get to later. I have some personal feelings on that. They're mostly on the negative side of things. In this story, you do learn more about the world itself as she refines her skills in different regions, uncovers the truth behind the island, as well as the alchemists of the past and how that connects back to her and her allies. Now, getting to the bad stuff. Firstly, the keys I spoke of prior. I feel in terms of a gameplay gimmick, they are actually worse than essences from Ryza 2. I feel from my experience, keys are only any good when you have good ones, meaning rare, or super rare ones, meaning you have to be close to late or even end the game to even have the ability to make these in abundance. Their effects are all RNG, so in terms of ability, they can be very useful or just subpar at best. At most, I feel they're good for synthesis, as well as being able to obtain secret recipes. One of those recipes being the variety of seeds, which are actually very important for optimizing the way you get synthesis materials. In my opinion, they're just doing too much for my personal taste, where in terms of gathering and battles, you have equipment as well as armor, weapons, and other accessories that you can equip super traits to handle all your needs in those departments more efficiently and consistently without relying on RNG to get a key with a good set of abilities. You do in fact need super rare keys, the hardest ones to make, meaning endgame, to get certain recipes, as I mentioned before. While these recipes are not required of you to complete the game by any measure, they do offer some good stuff if you like crafting or having options for what you want to make and equipped to your characters, especially if you want those seeds. They're really good. And because of this new system, it does make me miss the days in the other games where I can just get some of these things through the skill tree or through progressing the game. game, or even doing quests for characters to get certain recipes, because at least then I could have more use for them and not have to wait until the end game to make these things useful, especially if you're somebody who never plans to come back after you beat the game, skips side content, or rushes to finish the story when available. The seeds themselves are in fact kind of nerfed in this game, not to an extreme extent. First off, you are limited to planting 4 seeds per atelier, not including the hideout. Assuming each atelier that you build is a farm, that means you have to maintain 4 different locations. On top of that, you can only get things from seeds that you have obtained in the game itself, as opposed to being able to get stuff you haven't found by just making the seeds and making them as good as they can be. While it does make sense, I do like the idea of me investing in trying to build up these seeds the best they can be to circumvent me getting some of the harder stuff a lot easier, being rewarded for my investment. But that's just my personal line of thinking. Otherwise, I've only had one glitch in the game during my first playthrough, where during a world quest I lost a battle, and instead of being able to retry it, I was actually stuck at the boss, not being able to engage it even if I tried attacking it. And in my second run, this didn't happen, so honestly I don't think it's something you should necessarily have to worry about. And of course, as with every Ryza game, they have no post game, meaning if you want more, you either replay the game again on New Game Plus, try some of the challenges, or wait until DLC comes out. Lastly, the biggest complaint I would say I have overall is just the clouds covering the map. I understand the point of it, making it so you explore to get the landmarks to clear up the map, to actually explore the world. I do find it annoying, as well as just something that makes exploration, especially finding certain paths, very difficult, making me very confused. And for our final section, we have the tips and tricks I recommend making consumable items during the mid to late game, because they can be a big game changer in terms of dealing big damage to bosses, especially if you're not confident in your damage output or your survivability based off of your current gear and other equipment. From my personal experience, I find that making the laboratory atelier to get extra SP is actually going to be crucial to getting enough SP to level up your skill tree, which will be very important to do. And eventually, once you've gotten everything you wanted or maxed it out, then make the farm to start planting seeds. In terms of the skill tree, I recommend starting on the lower path to get extra SP gain when you're crafting in the atelier, but ignore the armor because that's not going to be useful in the beginning, since some of that is going to require other recipes as well as things you can't get yet at the start of the game. Then you go to the left path to increase your ability to gather materials with the staff and your hand. Following that, you should then go to the upper path to get quality boost as well as some other recipes and alchemy features such as duplication machine and gem reduction. And lastly, then you start investing in the right path for consumable items. Even some of the basic ones are gonna do wonders if you get most, if not all, of their abilities. But some of these will require you to get some very hard to make stuff, so the later ones should be saved until you're late to end game. This will be very useful when you get to the 4th region of the game, where the boss you're gonna fight there is actually weak to lightning. And I feel this boss for me was where difficulty really spiked up, and for the personal sake of enjoyment, I was playing on easy, and this is where I really decided I had to change the way I played the game. Personally, I'd recommend investing in consumables that do ice, fire, and lightning damage, because those are where your biggest story bosses are going to have an elemental disadvantage. One of those who melts like butter given the right items. Lastly, super traits are your friends. Learn how they work, understand that they only transfer from non-synthesized materials, and certain traits are exclusive to certain things like items, consumables, weapons, etc. And if you ever want to truly focus on just doing one quest and knowing exactly where to go, for the most part, always remember to mark the quest that you are focusing continuing on, because sometimes the game will change it when you get a new quest or start progressing the story. Whether you're a new fan or returning one, play this game, very enjoyable. And if you're a new fan, try out the other games too to understand how we got to this point, to truly appreciate the journey and how the game has improved over time.